How's it going, everyone? We've got a very exciting figure to check out today. So this already, if the package hasn't given it away, is Final Fantasy VII's Sephiroth as 1/6 scale collectible figure. This is not an official figure. This is not made or licensed by Square Enix by any means. This is from China by a company called Gametoys. You can see the name there. Gametoys is who made this. This is the third figure that they've made. They have done unofficial figures of Bleach's Ichigo and Dark Ichigo, I believe it is. And they're doing Cloud and Zack. So these are exciting figures. And I don't normally touch unofficial figures. I don't normally touch unofficial figures. But this one was an exception. And you'll see why. You'll see why I've made an exception when it comes to the Gametoys stuff. So this is also 1/6 scale. And that's something I also don't chat about on my channel. So I normally do the 6-inch kind of action figure stuff from Japan, right? But 1/6 scale, I do have many, or some. I have Hot Toys in my collection that I've just never shown on my channel. One day, I might go into covering those as well. But this one was exciting, so I wanted to really talk about this. Now, before we get into this main packaging, I just want to say I got mine from Toys Wonderland. I'll put the price on the screen because I forgot how much exactly it was. It was around $200 something US dollars. So before that packaging, people do kind of ask about the shipper carton that it comes in. It comes in a pretty basic shipper carton like this. So this is GT-003, third one of Gametoys collectibles. And then it kind of comes with some sort of hint of what the character is. So in this case, Sephiroth's Masamune blade there. And then it just comes with kind of a black ribbon around it. 7 on the side there that you see on the main packaging. Pretty simple carton, really. Mine was shipped just in bubble wrap. So that box there was shipped in bubble wrap. So not the safest by Toys Wonderland, but it's okay. I don't care too much about that carton. This is the baby that I care about. So let's kind of jump in with the packaging first. So you'd be forgiven if you thought that this was an official product. This isn't an official product, but I have to admit what they've done here, this kind of slickness of it does look very legit, very official. And something that I think that Square Enix's Play Arts line would probably use as well. So if you look at some of their current figures or recent figures, for example, check my channel for the Nier Automata 2B figure, that has a very matte black finish as well. And that even persists with some hairline scratches in and around the box, which this does too. But here, this is a very nice slick box. It's kind of a bit like a shoebox, really a larger shoebox size. And it's great. I love that the fact that they've got a simple 7 there, not even the Final Fantasy word. I wouldn't have minded the whole thing, but that's okay with just 7. And then you've got Sephiroth, One Wing Angel, Gametoy. So all of the text is pretty much in like a black or silver foil, I would say. I think this looks a little bit more black foil, and then this is silver foil. To be honest, the way it reflects, it looks silver sometimes, but it looks nice, is the point. That looks nice. And then you've got gloss feathers kind of darted around here and there on the box. Not just the front, but the feathers kind of go in and around the side, the top here you can see, and then all the side, the bottom too as well. So I think it's a nice amount of feathers darted around. It's not too much and it's not too little or too few. I think it's a nice amount. And like I said, this is a very nice, slick package. I did mention the hairline scratches, even official products have them, so you can see hairline scratches here. That's enough about the box. Let's get it open because this is very, very exciting. So all you gotta do is to just get this open, just lift up the top, again, like some shoebox or kind of any other luxury item. It's nice. I really do like it. I think the overall finish of the box is pretty good. There are some minor niggles, like a bubble in the paper on the backside, but you're not really going to see that. But otherwise, yeah, this is very nice. It does fit quite snug. So I'm just going to get that off, hopefully one day. There we go. Just lift that off, and then I'll put that top box to the side. It's very sturdy material. It's quite thick, the box overall. Inside the box, you'll be greeted with... I've actually taken a peek, by the way, so it's not the first time I've seen it. I had to take a peek. But you'll be greeted with this small little instruction pamphlet. So it kind of just tells you how to put the belt on. Though I did realize my belt is already equipped, but I didn't take it out. We'll take a closer look later. But in case you need to take the belt off or put it back on, this is what you need to follow to get this done properly. And then on the reverse side, it just tells you how to assemble the stand. So this figure does come with a stand. And yes, it comes with a one-wing feather. Or feathered one wing. So this is really going to be the exciting bit. So you get some black foam. Okay, that's not the exciting bit. But the removal of it is going to be so cool. So I'm going to put that aside. And inside the box, basically, you're just greeted very simply, very elegantly, I would say clean. This is clean, is this figure. So I'm going to put my hand in front so I don't drop anything. So basically, this is Sephiroth, an unofficial Sephiroth, 1/6 scale collectible by Gametoys. And if you can't see the faces clearly, I hope you can, or what you can work out, you can see where we're going with. I'm going to just lift this up. I'm going to hold my hands just here. So his armor doesn't come off, but you can see just even in the packaging how gorgeous this figure is looking so far. So I took a sneak peek earlier just to kind of confirm whether the face here is going to look as good as the promo stuff kind of depicted, because you can't always trust promo stuff, especially, you know, even with official stuff from Square Enix, you can't even trust promo stuff. But here you can see this is looking so good. You got this in layers, so I'll take the first layer out. I'll go through the parts and the actual figure and stuff separately. Just go through the layers first. Once you take the first layer out, you'll be greeted with the feathered wing. Pretty large wing you can see here. We'll show you how to assemble that. The bottom layer holds Sephiroth's hands, his blade, and the base stand. Very quickly with the base stand, this is what it looks like here. Pretty simple base, I quite like it. You got two options to assemble this, or three technically. First one is to use this bendable telescopic pole, which has two screws on the end. You just need to screw this piece on, and then that goes into the base itself, and then this claw piece on the other side, which wraps around Sephiroth. And this retracts back automatically, so that's pretty cool. Or you can use this piece here, which is a bit more standard. I think if you're more familiar with, I guess, a lot of Hot Toys kind of stuff, this is one of the common ones. I think Playouts used to use these at some point as well. You just pinch this, and then that kind of gives you a little bit of extra length, and then it can pull out completely, and then just pinch it back to get it back in. You can combine these as well, so put this on top and then screw it into the base, and then that kind of gets you the kind of elevated pose if you want for Sephiroth. So here's Sephiroth out of the box. Now I have had some time on with this guy already, but I've kind of taken him apart already at the same time. Now just to kind of say, I haven't finished playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've just been really slow with it, to be quite honest. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan in general, but I've just been slow to get around to finishing Remake. So option part wise, you've got a couple of ways to do the base stand for starters. So he's already attached on the kind of stationary pole that goes up and down, as I just mentioned earlier on, or you've got the telescopic kind of pole here, which does bend in different ways. It's quite sturdy for sure. It's definitely sturdy. Screw these top and bottom ends on, and then kind of like shove it into the base if you want to. If you want them to get into an elevated position with the wing attached, then you're going to want to use both most likely. So there's a couple of ways to kind of assemble it however you feel most comfortable and for your display. For the base, there's also this little plaque with Sephiroth's name on it. You can see it's just a simple kind of silver kind of plaque. This has a little bit of a plastic film on it that kind of sticks on, and then same plastic film on the front, so it gives a more clean finish. Personally, without it, it does look a bit plain. So definitely with it, it's going to look good. I'm just going to leave it for the time being. Now in terms of hands, he does come with a pair of hands that grip the sword. They thumbs up a little bit. We're going to look at those ones closer when we look at the figure. But another pair of hands that also grip the sword is like so. So this one gives a much more firm grip to the sword of Masamune. So you can see the thumb is down more natural grip. These don't flex out or anything like that. These are pretty solid plastic. So yeah, sometimes these can break, even for like cheaper toys, they can break. So, don't be surprised if that does happen here. Hopefully it doesn't. If you do get worried, maybe heat it up in your hands a little bit just to give it a little bit of that kind of flex. So far, I've been okay with it. In terms of detail on the gloves, though, you can see there's some kind of little markings here and there to kind of give it that kind of leather gloved look. So, because again, I haven't finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm not 100% sure what kind of inaccuracies may be on this figure, but it looks pretty much like some of the renders I've seen so far. Then the other kind of hands that you have, same gloved effect going on. They're all going to be the same gloves going on, but just different position of the hands. This is relaxed hands, which is very nice. I quite like using these because I don't really like him to be in a more aggressive pose, so I tend to use one of these hands. With a lot of my figures, actually, I just quite like this. You can see also, by the way, if you kind of look at this section here, there's a little bit of texturing there, so just before this line here, and then it kind of goes around too. So just a bit of textures to the actual grip of the hands too. So that's really cool attention to detail there. Lots of detail captured in this figure, not just on the hands, but we'll get to the figure soon, right? Then finally, he comes with hands that are kind of more action posed. So more in a ready stance that you can use. You can try to use this if you want, but again, given the type of figure that it is and how expensive it is, and it's raw fabric, you're probably going to limit yourself to how much you use certain poses and therefore how much you use these hands. But it's cool nonetheless that you've got that. Sephiroth also comes with this little wing piece, which we'll touch on more later. So this is a hard plastic that's just been sculpted, and this basically plugs into the right shoulder of the figure, and we'll kind of get into that later and how that looks. Now onto one of my favorite parts of this figure, and I think for a lot of people, it's going to be the head sculpt. So he's already got a gorgeous head sculpt on him by default, which we're going to take a look at later on with the whole figure. But this is the alternate head sculpt that Sephiroth comes with, and it's this gorgeous, very handsome, eyes closed very relaxed, focused, also kind of look to it. So I love this head sculpt. I am so in love with this head sculpt. I have mostly praise to say about it, and anything that's negative, which will come up, is really not that negative. So overall, absolutely amazing face sculpt. You would think this was an official product. It's still not, right? It's hard to believe this is not an official product, and it's just amazing. The job that Gametoys have done with both head sculpts is simply amazing. So let's just start with the face first. So all the actual facial features, the actual bone structure, you could say, look great. He's a very handsome guy, and that's captured really, really well in both head sculpts. This one, for sure, too, right? It's not ultra realistic or hyper realistic like a lot of kind of 1/6 scale figures might be. Of course, the game goes for that realistic anime type of look, if that makes sense. If you played the game or have seen Advent Children, then you kind of know what I'm talking about with that. But you can kind of see his eyelashes, eyebrows all look good. Nose bridge, nose shape is very nice. His lips looking good as well. Some people might say they're dark or thin or whatever. I think the face sculpt looks really, really good. The ears even look good too. The ears are nice and clean. You see there's both sides there. Very good. He does have a little bit of an under chin hair, you can see. And then once you've got it on the face, depending on the angle of you've got on your display or how you take your pictures, then he might look like he's got a little bit of a fat chin. It's not bad. Once you're going straight on or you're looking slightly down, up to down, it's fine. But otherwise, face sculpt and facial feature wise, I think is great. Just to kind of say as well, if you guys had ever been to Japan way back, maybe in 2010, around that period, for a good while, Square Enix in their official store used to have a real statue on the floor, in the back of their shop that had Sephiroth with the eyes closed expression. He didn't have his clothes on. He was kind of topless, and it was the top half of his body. It was an amazing statue. I absolutely love it, and I have really, really good memories of seeing that statue in real life. I'll put a picture up, but I don't have pictures of me with it because I've lost all my photos. But that was a really awesome statue, and when I did see that statue, one of my dreams was I wish they would release something official on that kind of tier. Maybe not that quite big because it'd be ridiculously expensive, and there's no space for me to put that. So having this kind of face sculpt with this figure is awesome, and I think that it's very close to that. Honestly, it's very close to that. So it's great. Again, great job with Gametoys here. One other thing I also want to mention, and it won't be the first time I mention it, is the head and this overall figure, whether it's this face or the original right there. You need to actually see this in person to believe. My pictures aren't doing it justice. The video is probably doing a little bit better of a job, but generally speaking, this figure looks awesome in person. The face sculpt is really good. We haven't even spoken about the hair, so let's talk about his hair as well. So in terms of hair sculpt, I love it. Looks really great. You got all the kind of textured detailing going down. His hair is very long. It goes past his butt as well. Now, one thing that's interesting about the hair on both of these head sculpts is the translucency towards the tips. You can see here, both strands or bangs, and that also occurs at the bottom of the tips here on the actual main side of things. One thing though with this one, this is the so-called negative, for me and my particular alternate head sculpt, this one, it kind of goes a little bit yellowy down here. It's not ultra obvious, but it's slight yellowy, slight dirty look, especially on this left strand of his, compared to the original head sculpt that's on him, which has a much more clear translucency to it, which I like, and it's just nicer. So maybe I just need to look at this at a distance, but mine has this weirdness going on with it, and even here. So I'm hoping that's not something that happens over time with the original. Let me know if that's something that has occurred on your one or other people's, because that would be a bit weird. And yeah, maybe we can try and get replacements or something, but that's the only real negative with this head sculpt. Otherwise, I absolutely love this head sculpt. Also, you've got these little two strands here, by the way. The tips of the hair, both in the bangs and in the mane as well, do have a little bit of flex to them. Depending on the temperature of your room environment display, they do flex in and out at times. I did notice that on the figure itself, that kind of just one day, I came back the morning after and it just flexed kind of like this really, but it kind of reset over time too. Bit weird, but it does happen. Here's a look at the underside as well, where the neck would go in. Now just keep in mind his hair is long and therefore a little bit heavy, so he won't be able to look down very much because the hair just kind of pulls him back to look straight ahead. But yeah, amazing, gorgeous looking head sculpt. Next is the Masamune sword. So this is very long. Overall, total length from the handle all the way to the tip of the blade, it's taller than the figure as well. So, you know, Sephiroth is known to have one of the longest swords in fiction pretty much, and this is captured really, really well. Here's a close look at the handle though. So you can see this is actually basically plastic. There's no real fabric wrapping or anything down there. You've got the gold end here at the handle, and then it kind of wraps around with a blue wrap. I think it is a darker blue in the game. It might even be black. I'm pretty sure it used to be black in the original Final Fantasy VII, and then Remake kind of updated it. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but it looks good either way. Sometimes it kind of just changes, I guess. They just update designs based from 7 to Dissidia to Articulation, etc., etc. Here's the blade then starting, so you're going to get fingerprints on it, so just give it a quick wipe as well, something like a soft cloth or something. So it's a pretty long blade here. It is full metal. That's, yeah, what you're seeing is full metal. It's not just coated, so it has some weight to it. Basically, think of a letter opener or a blunt knife. This is that. A couple of things to note though, because it is metal, it is going to add a bit of weight once you equip it to Sephiroth. So the hand or the elbow or the arm might just weigh down a little bit. The other thing as well is the angle that you have this on display. So if you've got it side angle, then I did notice that overnight this kind of dipped a little bit and bent a little bit. So I would say just add some support so you don't have that over time. If you have it straight blade facing down, or maybe even blade facing up, you shouldn't have that issue. It's just this sideway that the weight ends up being a little bit more. So keep that in mind for sure. All in all though, a very nice looking sword and very suitable and apt for Sephiroth. Next we're going to talk about Sephiroth's amazing, awesome one wing, or since he is the one wing angel. So straight away you can see it's a big wing. Now second important thing I want to mention as well is wash your hands after handling the wing, whether that's you're attaching the wing to the figure or you're reposing the wing and then need to handle the figure. Whatever you do after you've handled the wing, before you touch the figure again, wash your hands, because you might actually notice already, like I think this has got heavy black dye on it, so it's coming onto my fingertips. So you don't want to ruin his grey hair or anything like that. So definitely wash your hands. But back to the wing itself. It's a gorgeous looking wing. I have no idea if these are real feathers or faux feathers. I'm hoping they're faux feathers, because why would you need real wings on a toy, to be quite honest? But it looks awesome. It looks really awesome. So you can see it's got fur texture here at the top. And then you can kind of see the wire working its way around as well. Depending on the angle, you won't really see that, or depending on the lighting, you won't really see that. It's not a huge deal. And then you've got the awesome looking feathers here as well. Your feathers may be a little bit split here and there. It should be fine, honestly. Don't worry too much about it. But it's a gorgeous looking one wing here. So this is the front side of it, and it's flat packed in the box. You can bend this with the wire. I would say bend it as a gradual thing, like coming inwards a bit, like so maybe, but don't do right angles, because then you're just going to destroy the actual metal piece. It's basically on a coat hanger, right? Then we can go on to the other side, the back side of the wing. Same thing, obviously, but it just kind of gives you another view. It looks gorgeous. This is bent now slightly, right? But it looks absolutely amazing. I just imagine once you've got this equipped or attached to the figure as well. And actually, to attach it to the figure, you can see this end gold bit here. All you got to do is plug that into the actual bit that goes into the shoulder blade of the figure. You can attach this to the figure first, then do this. I prefer to do it this way first. I found that it was a little bit fiddly trying to get this attached, because it's quite firm, quite solid, and it just takes a bit of effort to plug that in. So this kind of goes in around this much. It won't go all the way in. You can kind of see that was already long. And then just plug this into the figure as well. So you can bend that as well if you want to. So it would give slightly different angle. Also, you can see that some of the feathers or fur does come off a little bit. So try not to be too aggressive with it. It's just naturally going to come off anyway. But if you're going to be too aggressive, then you're probably just going to make that problem even worse. And then eventually you may end up needing to get a new wing or some new fur. But generally speaking, this wing is awesome. Though I should mention the size. Obviously, this is a big wing. Once you've got it attached to Sephiroth, and you've got the sword attached, and depending on how that sword is angled and how the wing is angled, you're looking at probably around 80 centimeters across to have this on your display. So what this is sitting on right now, this takes up pretty much the whole length of it. So it's a very long figure. So you're going to have a lot of space to accommodate this wing attachment and the sword on its own. Without the wing, obviously, just narrows it down there. So keep that in mind if you do want to get this figure and definitely want to display it. And now I'm going to go wash my hands, because it's a bit furry and you can see a little bit of dye on my fingers. So again, wash your hands after you handle the wing. And that brings us to the main attraction, which is of course going to be the figure of Sephiroth itself. Now I don't know really where to begin. First up, to really appreciate this figure, you need to see it in person. Now, I tried taking still photos of this with two different phone cameras, my OnePlus 7 Pro, which is what I'm using to film this, and an S21 Ultra. The S21 Ultra was pretty much garbage. It was doing really weird things in still photos. It made Sephiroth look elongated, features look weird. I don't know what the heck is up with that phone and its camera and its sensors. It's just not very good. Videos are doing a much better job, so hopefully this video is doing a little bit or much clearer view of what this figure actually looks like, and hopefully inform you a lot more as well. But trust me when I say you need to see this figure in person. The first look I had out of the packaging for this figure, I knew we were onto a winner. I knew we were onto a winner. I was apprehensive, obviously, because I've never had a third-party unofficial toy like this. But the first peek in the box was truly something. So again, definitely try and get to see this somehow firsthand, and then yeah, you will understand how gorgeous this looks. So basically, when you get this out of the box, he's not going to have the shoulder armor attached. It's totally fine. They're just going to be two separate pieces. And otherwise, yeah, it will just be pretty much what the right side is showing here. So the shoulder armor, we'll take a closer look at that first actually. But the shoulder armor looks like this. It's pretty much just plastic, really. It's nice, it's nicely finished, and it has that kind of metallic look to it, but it is just plastic. You've got articulated points here and here, you can see. And then basically it's on this kind of plastic strap. It's not a fabric strap. It would have been nice if it was fabric, but it wouldn't have really stuck securely. So you've got this kind of strap that's in plastic here that secures to both ends there. It's kind of clipped on or hooked on this side here. And then you've got this small little magnet here, small little magnet. That magnet is basically going to hold it a little bit better into place. Now I will say it's not a perfect hold. Once you've got this on, you just slip it on through like this and then onto the figure, onto the shoulder. Now I'm not going to do it too much at the moment, but basically it lines up with a magnet that's sitting underneath the coat of Sephiroth. It still doesn't hold that well, but once you've got him a little bit posed up, his arms a little bit out, I guess, it does hold. So, you know, just be careful as you do this, because if you're handling the arms or moving the arms, the shoulder armor for both arms will eventually slip off, and you don't want it to fall at such a great height that it ends up cracking the plastic. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to take Sephiroth off the base. So that's just actually one of the stands you can use, and we'll have a closer look at him from top to bottom. So let's start with his original head sculpt that's attached to the figure. So the alternate we already saw was a gorgeous looking eyes closed, and the alternate, or the original, is going to be with his eyes open. You can see here. In terms of hair, by the way, just kind of maybe quickly go over that, it's going to be the same as the other one. There are going to be slight differences in the strands at the end, the tips of the mane. You know, it does flex a bit, so don't expect exact one-to-one, but it pretty much is okay and like for like. Same again with these two bangs here. Pretty much going to be the same sort of style. It's fine. It looks good. I did mention the translucency on this hair is better and clearer than the slight yellowing that's happening on the alternate one. So I'm hoping I can sort something out with that one. But generally, hair looks great. Now, the actual face sculpt, again, you need to see this in person to really, truly appreciate it, because I'm just not really convinced that the camera lenses are doing a good job enough capturing it. They make him look chubby and weird, and it's just not like that. So the only difference, as we mentioned, is going to be the eyes. So you can see his eyes here, got that nice kind of light green Mako reactor energy sort of green going on with the irises there. His pupils, I would say, yeah, they kind of look a little bit slit. Like the right one is a little bit, like his right eye iris is pupil is a little bit slit designed, and then the left one got a lot of light reflecting. Yeah, they both look slit designed. I think that's how it is in Remake these days. I don't think it was always like that. I saw some people commenting saying they didn't like that, but honestly, I think it looks good. I like the eyes. I like the gloss on the eyes as well, the kind of shellac or shell-looking finish on it. Looks good. I really like it. I really like this head sculpt too. The nose is good too. Again, lips are good too. And then he's got that same sort of slightly bit of an under chin if you look down to up. But otherwise, yeah, it's a really gorgeous head sculpt, to be honest with you. Both head sculpts are awesome looking. You know, I actually wish he had the third head sculpt. I don't know what it would be, but I just really love the actual final result of these head sculpts from Gametoys is top tier stuff. So moving down a bit, you can see the straps on the body here, and you actually see texture on the body too. You can kind of see a little bit of skin texture there at the neck bit, the collarbone, and even actually down here too in this gap here. So textured body overall. I'm not going to take the clothes off or anything like that. That's not really going to be my thing, and I don't want to kind of spoil the overall finish of it. You've got the other armor bit that's underneath his jacket usually too. So that's pretty good. This isn't fabric, this is just sculpted on. I think this is a unique body, by the way, as well. So this is not the same body that Gametoys have used for Bleach, for example, the Ichigo figure. This is a brand new body for Sephiroth. And then we can just kind of jump outside now to his coat. You can see the details on his coat look absolutely amazing. I think though from the promo shots the collars changed a bit. So for me the collars, you can see they're not flared out here. Tried to see if they did flare out. They don't. They're pretty much stuck there. I guess you could take a chance and, you know, unglue it or something. Up to you if you want to do that. Mine, I did try to see if they could do it. So mine's unflared a little bit there. I prefer the flared bit. Sorry, it's flared a little bit. I prefer the slight flared look personally, but you may not. It does seem to look like the flares even more overall as a collar bit or a coat bit. But once you got the armor, the shoulder armor attached, that kind of sets it back in place. But again, depending on temperature, time, and all of that kind of stuff, the actual material stuff will change and kind of evolve over time. That's kind of normal, I believe. But generally, the details on his coat look absolutely amazing. I love the stitching on it. This strap here, texture strap, or stitch strap is different. Kind of got textured arm here, or underneath his armpit, down the side, different as well. A lot of details really captured on this are nice. Honestly, like we could spend a long time just talking about every little piece of detail here, but just kind of moving down, you got those little new lines up here on the remake design, which is these kind of these lines here. Those are brand new. Those pretty much go all the way down to the base of the coat, so and behind as well. So really amazing attention to detail with his coat. I can't remember for sure if these are supposed to be zippers in the actual true design and they've just kind of simplified it here, but I believe they should be zippers. You've got the buckles here. You can see each one is going to be the same in terms of design on it, but the detail on them is really nice as well. So you've got multiple buckles down this side, and then you've got the straps. Again, each one's going to look the same, but multiple down this side as well. Amazing attention to detail once again. By the way, you've got the midsection bit, which is already attached and belted up, you could say. I kind of wish, like maybe it's asking too much, that these were miniature actual metal buckles. Maybe that's asking too much. I don't know, but that would have just kind of elevated the figure a little bit more. It's already gorgeous looking and amazing attention to detail with the coat for sure, but just that little tiny bit would have been even more amazing, let's say. Also, for that magnet bit I mentioned for the shoulder armor, you may be able to see a slight kind of bump, very slight. So this little bit here is where the magnet is going to be. You can kind of see I've already attached it here, but it's not the securest. But when you do attach the shoulder armor, you can kind of feel this attraction happening to the shoulder bit. So it does secure eventually, but yeah, you're gonna have to kind of feel that out yourself. Now moving on to his waist bit, the sash bit, the wraps, I'm not really sure how you want to call them. So you got the main centerpiece here with this nice one-winged kind of the sculpting bit inside or detail there in the centerpiece. You got a little gold bit and a light blue bit. I'm not sure if that's going to be a material point. Maybe this actual belt and sash has more kind of meaning in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I haven't finished the game, so I'm not 100% sure. And then he's got these little tassels of additional wings kind of going down as well. So he's got 4 of these. I would say be careful with these because one of mine did come undone. These aren't real little tiny links. It's a bit awkward, and I would say very awkward depending on your position of things. Very awkward to get this hooked back on. So keep that in mind, and definitely don't lose it because it's quite tiny as well. In terms of the straps though, he's got numerous straps going around the body. So this one has a different kind of buckle on there already, but the thicker straps 1, 2, 3 have this recurring pattern throughout, and then the smaller straps are just pretty much plain really. They have this slight kind of raised textured look to it, but otherwise they're plain. Now again, mine was actually already attached to the figure. The instruction sheet, if you need to detach it or reattach it, it tells you how to do it properly, where it kind of crisscrosses properly. Now mine here, you can see this buckle here. This one was undone when I took it out of the box. This is the only thing that was undone. One of them is already in there from the other side that wraps around, that kind of goes through this threaded bit on his coat here. You can see this thread here. So don't pull on these because you may end up pulling and undoing this thread, which would be annoying because then I think the shape of the belt would kind of really lose. It will lose the shape of the belt basically. So you can see one of the straps is already inside there. It's a little teeny weeny slot there. And then this is the loose one. Now I would recommend, if you've got thin fingers, which I do not have, then you can probably do this, but if you have tweezers, plastic tweezers, just line it up a bit into that slot and then just, hopefully, I'm going to just do this with my fingers here, slot it in. It doesn't slot in properly for me, so it does occasionally come undone, like you kind of just saw that was because it came undone. And then yeah, it should slot in. Use plastic tweezers, that's probably the best way to do it so you don't damage anything further. Again, also showing you on the other side the threaded bit points here. So you got a threaded point here and a threaded point here for this big strap. So just be very careful how you handle this because it would be really unfortunate if you kind of tore these threaded bits So yeah, just keep that in mind. But otherwise, the belt or wrap looks really solid, very, very cool. So moving to his arm then. So the main part of the arm is just going to be the same texture material as the coat. As you can see, it's just stitched through like a normal coat would be. The gloves are going to be a different thing. So obviously we saw the hands, that's completely separate. This section here, this portion of the sleeve here, including the cuff bit, is a separate section entirely. So this can remove, if you undid the hand or took off the hand, you can slip this off as well. So that kind of slips on and off, and you can kind of see it just kind of rotates. Well, I'm actually rotating on, but you can see it does shift a little bit there. This is pretty much a soft plastic, this cuff, but it is got a nice kind of metallic finish to a jewelry finish to it. So it's pretty good looking, but don't squeeze it too hard because you don't want to accidentally damage that either. Now kind of finishing the coat, at the bottom there is a little bit of wire here, very thin wire in the bottom section here. So you can kind of bend that if you want. I've just tried to curve it so I don't get any like right angle bends or anything. So play around with that once you've got the figure posed up, and you can kind of get a more natural looking flow of the coat. In terms of material and like the overall weightiness and quality of the coat, I really like it. It's very, very nice. It's quite lightweight as well. Here's the inside here. There's no pattern detailing like that. It's stitched quite nice so you can see, lightweight. And then, like I said, just use the wire and then of course the stand or anything, and then just kind of maneuver it how you need to get that kind of perfect kind of position. I did notice a little spot on mine had a bit of a blemish here. I don't know if that was just me handling the figure naturally or if that's just something that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's going to be because I was just handling the figure. So because it is kind of like a, I don't know, like a pleather material, just be careful handling it. Honestly, I did put him into some kind of maybe extreme poses, but just be careful with it. It is an expensive figure. You don't want to stress the material too much. It is quite nice. So the last thing you want is to add more spots or worse spots like that. You can see it's a very nice looking coat otherwise. The back though, once you kind of remove the hair a bit, you can see there's some stitching going on, some stitching detail, but otherwise it's very, very plain really, but it looks good. Now there is that little spot there you can see behind or underneath the shoulder blade, and that's where the wing attachment goes into. There is no cap for this by default, it's just going to stay like that. So I guess either, well, add that in or angle him so you don't see it. So really you're not going to be able to see him because you want to see his face, right? But there is that little gaping hole in the back. Pants are pretty much the same material as the coat. There's no actual texture pattern or anything like that happens with the coat. There's no texture work at all. It's just plain. You can see the side stitching there. And then the boots you can see nicely done as well. Kind of got a metallic finish around the top part of the boot. This would have been cool. This center piece down all the way here would have been awesome if that was a real zipper. I can understand them not doing it as well. But again, just to kind of elevate this figure even further than how awesome it already looks, that would have been good. This is a profile or side view of the boot too. Looking good. You got textured material just near the Achilles bit here as well, which is awesome. That looks awesome there. And then that's kind of finishing off the way the boot looks on top there, kind of creasing there, very good, the kind of leather effect. And then here's the underside of the boot and the side as well. So really, really good looking boots. And again, nice attention to detail. With the boot, there is this little softness here at the back of the calf. I would say don't push this too much because I think over time, that's probably going to kill the shape of the boot and that would suck. So that brings us into articulation. Now, because this is a expensive figure and I don't want to ruin the actual cloth material thing, I'm going to pretty much gloss over it for the most part. So starting with the head, he is a little bit restricted because of the hair. That's going to be pretty obvious. It should be pretty obvious. Plus the kind of clothing material as well. So he can look left and right. I'm going to hold myself back where I can. He can look up ever so slightly, but obviously the long strands of his hair end up touching his butt. Looking down, I did say he can't do a great deal. Looking down is an awesome way to pose him, I think, but sometimes the hair will just weigh it back down and then pull his head back up straight. But if you can get him to look kind of downwards, just ever so slightly, because he is a tall figure, I love that pose for Sephiroth. He just looks a bit more intimidating. Not super intimidating, but just kind of like, don't mess with me type of thing. I love that pose for him. I love that look for him. If you could maybe add, say, I don't know, you can maybe add a little bit of paper behind just to kind of maybe sit in place to look down. That's probably the easiest way to do it without damaging anything. Paper is the best way, right? Tissue or something. Tilting, he can do a little bit too, but again, it's going to be slightly restricted. Not the best thing either. In terms of the shoulders, he does have decent range of motion. You can stress it if you want, but then expect to stress the actual outfit too. So he can bring his arms forward, back a bit. There's a bit of a twist here as well, but because of the material, it slips. So you can see you can flex that material there. It does slip a little bit, but it can be done there. I've twisted it I don't know if that's shown properly, but he can twist it there. He's got the bend at the elbow too, and you can see it looks nice there. Actually, it stretches the material a little bit, and it looks pretty natural to me, so I like that. But I think what happens with a lot of these real material kind of figures, they just scrunch up here over time, and you're supposed to change it after every few kind of weeks or 2 months, roughly speaking, or every month, so it doesn't ruin the material and then crease and crack or things like that. But generally speaking, you can bend his elbow quite nicely. He's got articulation at the hands. I've actually kind of loosened his hands and not secured them on properly because the hands swapping is a huge pain in the butt. But he can lift his hands up ever so slightly. I'm not going to attach it now, but he can lift his hands up ever so slightly up there and then move them down a little bit. It has the kind of rotation. The usual kind of stuff most figures would have, slightly restricted because of the kind of bangle cuff thing here. And if you push that too much, you are going to see this flex a little bit. You can see that there. So don't do that too much because you don't want to ruin this by any means. But this kind of gives me a good opportunity to also show you that this does slip off, and this is just kind of a naked look with the sleeve of his coat here. Now Sephiroth can lean and twist at the torso. I've pushed it a decent amount. I'm again going to restrict myself here a little bit. So you can twist like so. It's a bit stiff, and I'm not really sure how this body works. Like, it feels like it's not just a straight cut and then twist. It's almost like it sits and then you need to lift it and then twist it kind of thing. It's very hard to explain, but you can see he's twisted here. His legs are one way and then his body is another way, so he can twist. And the same for the other side. Leaning, you can probably do, but I'm not going to try to push it too much. I think you need to twist it to lean as well and then bring it forward a bit. I'm not going to push it too far because I don't want to damage anything. The torso section feels very, very sturdy, but I think I need to kind of see it naked to see what exactly moves and what doesn't. Keep in mind though, again, you've got the clothing or the coat on, so that's going to restrict things. And the belts you don't want to damage. That's just going to be really, really bad if you do. That brings us down to his legs. So in terms of leg articulation, I feel he's very similar to a lot of the 6-inch stuff that I do cover. Now, just like the coat itself, he's got the pants which do slip and move. So that can sometimes make twisting the leg at the upper thigh. He's got a thigh twist there. A little bit tricky. If you slip, you could damage something. You could rip something and pull this pant too much. So just be careful of that. But you can see I've twisted the leg. I'm going to straighten the leg out there. You can see the leg's pointing that way now, but twisting it back. There we go. And then he can lift his leg up. I'm not going to go too far. You can probably go all the way up, like at least 90 degrees. And then back, not really that much. I think you're going to have to twist it to get it back a little bit. But I like getting him into like a walking pose where he's kind of mid-stride. I like that, and you can do that with this figure. He's got a knee bend here. You can start seeing the knee shape kind of forming as you bend. But I'm not going to pull it too far because I don't want to destroy the pants or anything that will stretch them too much. So I'm going to pull that back. And if you do end up putting it super straight, it might end up catching in the actual joint itself. So just keep that in mind too. He's got some foot articulation, but because of the boot and the material around it, that really does restrict it quite a lot. So you can kind of toe point, you can see, bring his toe down a little bit. And so it's okay, it'll be done fine for the kind of elevated pose where he's kind of landing or just about to fly, things like that. So it's fine to do that. And then he can bring it up a bit to almost have mid-stride, if you like. So that's the kind of pose I was telling you about. So mid-stride, a bit like that, right? And then he's got a bit of kind of rocking here, but it doesn't really fix or stay because of the boot. So I don't know, you can try and force it if you want. I probably wouldn't do it. I've tried a little bit just to kind of angle it a little bit nicely, but it doesn't really stay all because of the boot. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's really the articulation for him. There's probably a little bit more you can do, but I don't want to push or stress things too much because I don't want to damage the material of his coat and things like that, because I feel like, yeah, this is going to be a matter of time before things go a little bit too bad for me, because I have bad luck with these things. So in terms of changing parts though, let me put him back onto the base. So I did mention and touch on the hands. So the hands are so hard to change. I honestly had quite a lot of difficulty with them. Here's the kind of socket here, and then here's the joint on his arm right there. It's not really an irregular joint. It was just really hard to do. It's hard to the point now that actually when I do take off the hand, or if I attach this hand, it's going to end up removing it from the forearm instead, which is not ideal, but that's the way it is for me. Hopefully that doesn't happen with you. Maybe you can just kind of, you could use a hairdryer before you do it, but because it's using kind of leather, pleather, whatever it is, I didn't want to risk that, so I just left it for the time being and then just kind of manually did it. Nothing's broken. it's just a little bit awkward to do. And same here as well. On the other hand, I've not actually set that properly. Well, it looks like it is now, but I try not to set it like super firmly until I'm set on exactly what I want to do, and then I'll put it on. So that's why I've left this on. And I'm not going to show you how to swap it as I normally would, just because of that reason. It's very difficult to do, or annoying to do, it's frustrating to do. But to do it, it's going to be the same as the other figures that I've done in the past, the 6-inch stuff. Just pull it off and then swap in the other hand. But I will show you how to change the head though. So we're getting back off the stand again. So the reason I take him off the stand to change the head is obviously you can see this one curves upwards. You don't want this to poke into his crotch and the pants and ruin the pants, for example. So I try to hold him in my hand around the waist bit, you know, be a bit firm, but also keep in mind what's happening around. And then when you want to change the head, it is going to be the same as every other kind of head out there, but its hair makes it a little bit more like, you want to keep things in mind, right? You don't want to damage these bangs for sure. So I tend to just, or I sometimes actually take these off too because they can slip. And then just kind of, yeah, maybe grab here, maybe grab there. Everyone's going to find a way to do it and what's more comfortable for them. For me, it's going to kind of pull off. There we go. And he's done. You probably don't need to have him securely sitting on the joint itself either, as long as it doesn't completely fall off. That's the head removed, and we'll swap it for the alternate one. I like both so much. Now when you do put the head on though, you might see that the collar might pinch and catch ever so slightly into that kind of area there, I'm pointing with the ball joint, this bit here. It might end up pinching into that. You know, I don't think it's anything to worry about necessarily, but it could end up stopping you a little bit. So just put that on. It's very secure or very tough to do. So just eventually drive it in and then it should fit. I didn't hear any clicks on my one, but it did tend to be okay. So it seems to be okay. I don't mind if it's not in too much, as long as it looks okay and doesn't fall off easily at the same time. But there we go. That's Sephiroth with his alternate head sculpt. And it looks amazing. Obviously, I've removed the shoulders, but wow, what a guy. What a very handsome looking guy. I really like it either way. Now, as I mentioned, though, the bangs here can sway a little bit. What I sometimes do, though, is I trap them here inside, just kind of center them a little bit more. And then once I'm ready to display them again, I'll loosen it, I'll remove it back out. Up to you how you want to do that. But yeah, this head sculpt is looking so good, right? As I mentioned earlier on, and a few times though, you do need to see this in person to really appreciate the beauty of it all. By the way, I do want to quickly mention the skin tone of Sephiroth. So some people may say he should be a little bit more tan. This one's slightly more tan actually than the closed eyes, ever so slightly. It's fine really. And some others might say he should be a little bit more pastel or pale looking. I like the end result for the Gametoys stuff. Some of the play out stuff can be very, very pale looking. But, you know, I like what's happening here. So, yeah, really no issues for me. But here, yeah, the head sculpt again, side by side. Honestly, pick whichever one you like. I am in love with both of these. Both have a purpose. What would a third one be like? I wonder what would a third one be like? Because these are really awesome. And having a third, I just want a third one for the sake of it. Because these are such well done sculpts. Really awesome stuff by Gametoys. Now let's attach the sword. So he's already got the default hand attached with the thumb slightly out. So just drive that into the hand. Be careful as you do it. You don't want to damage anything. You don't want to damage the long handle that's there or the actual metal blade section. And you definitely don't want to cut yourself or maim yourself or anything like that. I'm going to stand him up a little bit straight. Let's see. There we go. And then I'm going to leave that one as it is because it's probably a little bit easier to kind of have access to the shoulder. Now hopefully the sword doesn't hit, so I'm going to actually move his sword back a bit so it doesn't kind of get in the way. You can see his shoulder armor slipped off. That's fine. It's going to catch on the sword and it'll hold it there. That's okay. Next, we're going to add the wing. So as I mentioned, the wing piece, I've already attached that as we saw. Bring him around. Now, because I'm handling the wing and it does have a die on it that goes into my fingers, it's up to you how you want to do this. I'm going to do this as it is because I haven't handled the wing too much. But if you want to remove the head so you don't dirty the head by accidentally keep touching that and the wing and interchanging and so on and so forth, do that just to keep it all clean. Line this up as best as you can. I'm going to try to see if we can do that. And then I think you just got to drive this in here. There we go. Kind of goes in. You saw that. This will be visible from behind. Unfortunate. You can maybe add a little bit more fur if you've got some of your own to cover it, but it is unfortunate. So this is what it will kind of look like from the side. Obviously, his shoulder armor is not on. So we're going to put that shoulder armor on anyway. So let's just kind of slip that on. I'm not going to make it look ultra perfect just because, you know, I'm doing this on camera. So it can be a little bit difficult to deal with trying to align that magnet. So this is a bit that can get a little bit frustrating to align that magnet because you can't see the one hidden underneath. Here, got a little bit of fur of the wing coming off. So shoulder armor is now looking a little bit more complete. We'll attach the glove bit or the sleeve of the glove here. This is something I'm gonna probably have to do off camera for a bit or just cut straight to it because it can be a bit awkward to do. So I attached the camera offhand, but here we can see a much more complete look of Sephiroth with the closed eyes, head sculpt, and then a beautiful wing attached here. By the way, for the wing, depending on how the light you've kind of got shining on it, it will kind of give off a very, very dark, kind of very midnight blue-ish look to it. Like it's just a very small tint, so it just looks really nice. It's got this glistening look to it. It just looks amazing, like a midnight sky. It's so nice. It's just, yeah, it's really, really nice. So once you complete it with the figure, you know, you don't have to use it with this, but it looks absolutely gorgeous. You can see here. So I'm going to just show you by moving the figure a bit to the side and then back again. And it just looks so, so good. Let me actually just kind of pull out just ever so slightly just to see kind of how and show you how it looks. It's just so good. You have to see this figure in person to really appreciate it, with the wing, without the wing. Whatever configuration you use, this figure needs to be seen in person. Now with the wing itself as well, I haven't played around with it in terms of bending it like, say, this kind of shape, where it goes up and down like that, which some of its Kingdom Hearts interpretations have. The reason being is this is kind of a smooth bend already when you get it out of the box, and I figure if I'm going to do sharp bends to it, I'm probably just going to destroy the wire at that point. That's going to be disappointing. So it would have been cool if they gave like a wire or accessibility to the wire to swap them out. Someone's probably going to be able to do that if they're quite a dab hand at customizing things. But for me, and what I'd recommend for most casual collectors, or I don't even know if I'm a casual collector really at this point, but if you're going to buy this, just kind of keep it as it is. And if you're going to bend it, only try and bend it like forward and back. So where it is at the actual, say, the joint inside the shoulder blade, but bend it here at that midsection so you can kind of bend it forward here, but curve it. Don't do sharp bends, just curve it like it's kind of mid flat here. So I kind of bent it forward again, and you can kind of see. So one thing I may have noticed on the wing though actually is there's a joint here about halfway down in the wing. It kind of bulks up here at the top. Now I'm not 100% if that's supposed to be an articulation point or a bend point. I know it moves up a little bit. It feels like it moves up a little bit easily, like it should be able to. I'm not 100% sure on this. I can't really uncover the fur enough to see, even from the back side as well. It's a bit weird. It's a little bit easy to see here. I just can see it bulges here. Maybe you can see that, but I'm not sure. I would still say if you're going to use the wing, just be very careful how you do it. If you are confident this is going to be an articulation point, then go for it. You can kind of see it starts to split there if you kind of bring it out too far. But in general, just be a bit careful with the wing because you don't want to bend it too much. Definitely avoid the 90-degree bends. The fact that this video is now almost an hour long should say it all. I think there's just so much detail packed here that I could still go on for probably another 1 to 2 hours talking about it. I really, really enjoyed my time with this figure in general. Congratulations and thank you also to Gametoys for delivering on such a complete product and a very fine looking product as well. I'm actually, you know, surprised. I couldn't believe it. I'm surprised. I'm very excited to see what Cloud is going to be like, Zack is going to be like, and I believe they teased Tifa and Advent Children Cloud as well. So really excited to see what the rest of this line comes out with. If Square Enix want to do an official 1/6 scale premium kind of collectibles, then they really need to reach out to Gametoys and give them the license, because they clearly are putting love into these figures. Now there are small issues though. The translucency in the hair strands being a bit yellow on my alternate head is a little bit concerning. I'm hoping that doesn't get worse over time. The fur falling out of the wings, I feel like it's happening a bit too much, so I'm kind of concerned there too. And I don't even really know what I'm doing with that wing. I don't know if I'm bending it in the right place or not. So that's kind of concerning too. So I'm hoping they have some spare parts over the kind of periods to just kind of supply back to customers that might have issues. So they're really minor issues, I guess. Seams as well on the hair could be cleaned out a little bit, but every figure has those, to be honest. And the hands, I hope they change or make the hand swapping easier, because that did get very worrying, and I'm still going to be worried about it. I think though, you know, having a second copy of this figure, I'm very tempted to get one, because I don't know how long this is going to be around,
and I really like this figure. I think having a second wouldn't be a bad idea. If I can, scrounge the money, then I might get a second one. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to the other figures here. I think this overall turned out great. Really great figure. Really, really great figure. I could go on about it. There's so much detail to talk about. But just know, I love this figure. I love it, love it, love it. It's going back in the box though until I find a place to actually display it properly and freely. Let me know what you thought about this figure down in the comments below. Otherwise, hopefully, I'll see you in the Gametoys Cloud unboxing as well. Stay safe, stay healthy.